Thank goodness you throw out records and history and how teams are playing in a rivalry game. Thank goodness. Because the records say this one won't be close. Because the form that they're in says this one won't be close. Because the statistics say this one won't be close. Everything I look at, right, as I do the prep that we do going into games, says there's a bad matchup for UNC. Oh, Duke can do this. Duke can do that. If you look at the advanced analytics, the DVOAs, the Ken Palms, whatever stat you want, you see Duke near the top of the entire country. See UNC some distance behind. But no matter what you see, no matter what stat, no matter what prediction, what analyst says, you can always respond with, yeah, but it's that rivalry, so you never know. Which is a saving grace for anticipation for this one. Jon Scheyer, let's jump to the clip where he pretty much says just that. The Duke head coach earlier today says that he knows that the UNC game is always dangerous and the records don't matter.
To sit up here and say, just like another game, and, I don't think I can say that because, college game day isn't here, every game. The anticipation, the noise around it, I'm not going to act like that's not there. That is, but that's also what you want to be in. The thing that can impact is your preparation, your focus. And so that's really, to me, what it comes down to as a player or as a coach. You're not approaching it differently. You just understand that there's different circumstances around it. Just like if you're, fortunate to advance in ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament. And so not every game's the same, but the focus and preparation is. And that's how we're going to approach this one.
Not every game is the same. And I love coaches that address that and agree with that, right? Because if you want to just lie, you can, and say, oh, well, this game's the exact same as every other game on the schedule and we're not treating things any different. No, this one's different.
Oh, it's different.
And thank goodness. Because let's say it weren't different. Let's say it were the exact same. Let's take away the jerseys. Let's take away the history. Let's take away the records over time and everything else. If this weren't a rivalry, I'd sit back and I'd go, if Zach Austin from Pitt gives you fits as a wingspan-y, lengthy 6'7" guy, what the heck are you going to do with Cooper Flagg? A 6'9", maybe even a little above, lengthier, wingspan-ier, athletic guy. If this weren't a rivalry, I'd sit back and I'd say, if your effort and execution over an entire game have been questioned by outsiders and insiders alike, right? The media, the observers, the analysts, as well as your own head coach, what are you going to do to stop a Duke team sending waves of future NBA players at you? If you're undersized, I'm talking to UNC here. If you're undersized, how do you handle a team with no one shorter than 6'5" in their rotation? Their starting lineup, 7'2", 6'9", 6'7", 6'6", 6'5", and you're an undersized team with multiple players out there that are flirting at 6 foot. Right? Elliot Cadeau, not the tallest guy in the world. RJ Davis, not the tallest guy in the world. Even Seth Trimble, who plays bigger than he is 6'3". But it is a rivalry game. So it's not that simple. The equation is different. UNC beat Duke 2 times last year, which means RJ Davis, Jalen Washington, if he plays, haven't been updated on that one. Withers, Elliot Cadeau, Seth Trimble, other guys I just mentioned can walk into Cameron with a little extra swag. And last time we were here, we left with a W.
Hey, been there, done that.
Even with a rough season so far, that wasn't against Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, we may have lost to Pitt. That wasn't against Duke. Last time we were here, we won. And that is good. That is good for your mentals. That is good for your history. I don't know why this pops up, probably because of the algorithm knows that I am a big ACC and Big Triangle basketball fan. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the clip of Tyler Hansborough in some podcast talking about how one of his most famous or favorite memories are all the wins he's got in Cameron. And he talked about it was at J.J. Redick's last game against UNC, and we won. And that's Think of all of the memories that Tyler Hansborough had.
Gerald Henderson punching him in the face.
There you go. Well, even if that was his favorite memory, I don't know if he'd be out there admitting it publicly, right? Oh, favorite memory from my playing career? Gerald Henderson punching me in the face. Be weird. Here's the thing. I actually like this game for both teams, right? And I hope, when you go to either of these schools, you go in with the expectation that this game is going to be put on a pedestal and it's going to be big and there's going to be game day and there's going to be all the pump. Jay Williams, who we're talking to later on in the show, we have that conversation for you coming up. He's giving away $100,000 of his own money Saturday morning to a fan, or he could if they make the shot, in a contest, see if they can hit a half-court shot. That doesn't happen on a normal, regular, like, hey, we're on the road at Syracuse game. This is a big deal. And you go to these schools for that reason, and I like that for both teams. If there's going to be a game that ignites a UNC opening tip to final buzzer effort game, it's going to be in Cameron. You're going to feed off of that energy, right? I say this all the time. I think a lot of athletes would rather shut up a loud away crowd than even ignite their home crowd, because it's us against the world. And for Duke, you circle this game for 100 reasons. Playoff-like intensity. Right? It's the things that Duke has done this year will be tested even more in a game like this. Again, I in preparation for the Jay Williams interview that's coming up later in the show, I went back and I wanted to make sure I knew all of the Jay Will lore, right? So I go to the Duke site, and on the 10-year anniversary of the Miracle Minute, where they scored the 12 points in the last minute 5, he and Battier went crazy. Nate James, they did a oral history of it, right? So I went.
That was against Maryland in 2000.
Yep. It was against the Juan Dixon, Steve Blake Maryland team that ended up winning a national championship as well.
On the road in College Park, too.
Absurd game. So I was like, let's go. Let me read this to get the full myth. And do you know what Jay Will actually said in the article, in the interview? He said, I played horrible for the first 3/4 of that game because I had been building it up for 3 days. I was mentally exhausted by the time the game started. And by that point, he was player of the year in the country. He's not a freshman experiencing big games for the first time. Duke is going to be tested that way. Con Knipple, Cooper Flagg, Common Malawash. These guys, Isaiah Evans, these guys have not experienced this at all. My dad's a big Duke fan. I've referenced that a few times. Had season tickets back in the 80s. He loved watching the NC State game. One of the things he loved about that, right? NC State punched him in the mouth early, got the lead early. He loved that they didn't overreact, right? There was no big performance. There was when a timeout was called, they just went over there and tried to fix it, and they came back out. That's what he took away from it. That will be tested against UNC. You give up 4 buckets against UNC. You give up a 6-0 run. Staying calm and staying the course is going to be more difficult in a rivalry game, even at home. We have R.J. Davis, the UNC returning ACC Player of the Year, on staying calm and present in a game like this.
I would say mindset's number one, and then at the same time, just take it possession by possession, right? So basketball is a game of runs, and especially against Duke and the years I played them, it's always been like a back-and-forth game and kind of an exchange of the buckets. So just know that every possession matters. You got to get a great shot, either a great shot or either a stop as well. So mindset, possession, and staying together, and kind of just having like blinders on because of the environment, because of the rivalry, right? And a lot of anticipation always gets built up for these games. A lot of pressure, and just a lot of fans, and just overall bragging rights of teams on both ends of wanting to win. So you kind of just gotta ignore all of that at the same time and just go out there and play basketball like you've been doing for 20 games that you've been playing.
I love that. Just bring up like 35 things that are different and special, and then you just got to ignore all that and play basketball, which is the push and pull of going into a game like this. And last thing I'll say before we move on, we'll come back and touch on this game throughout the show. Last year, the game that took place between these two teams in Cameron could be described as the Cormac Ryan game. Knocked down a bunch of threes, that was the surprise.
31 points that game from her.
31. I think he broke like a Hubert Davis record for UNC points in Cameron. Maybe I forget exactly what it was, which is ironic because he's the head coach. But the reason I bring that up is something's going to happen Saturday that we don't anticipate. Something will happen that you can't have game planned for. You couldn't have game planned for. Cormac Ryan will catch fire, right? Something will happen. Foul trouble for somebody, a ridiculous dunk from someone who you don't even think is a dunker. Like something will happen that you have to adjust to. It's just the way the rivalry works.
Or there's someone that doesn't really play a whole lot, all of a sudden gets a moment, and they spark for 12 points in a random 2-minute stretch. Like, wait, who is that guy?
If Washington can't play for UNC, maybe James Brown, the freshman who hasn't played much, ran a couple dunks, or Common Malawash for Duke, maybe knocks down 2 threes in the first 4 minutes. You
never know.
Something unusual will happen, and it's how you react to that that'll also help decide who wins the game.